Hi everyone, my paper is about the Venezuelan migrant crisis. Here I chose as my thesis or my goal for this paper to deconstruct the idea of economic migrant that has been created around the Venezuelan refugee. And I mainly do that through the analysis of the humanitarian crisis occurring in Venezuela, as well as the xenophobic attitudes that have occurred in Latin American countries that are hosting Venezuelan migrants because of the huge influx that has come to certain countries. So first, what I do is go into the humanitarian crisis, and here I wrote 4 points that are very important in regards to that. The first one is public healthcare crisis and food insecurity. These all things occurring in Venezuela. Human rights violations through persecution, repression, and social control, generalized violence, collapse of the public services, including gas, water, and electricity. So what I did here is I used some statistics, some examples, specific examples of how the crisis has really affected most of the population, and how it has turned Venezuela into the poorest country in the nation, but in the region. But not just that, also how the day-to-day life has been really affected by everything. By it's just impossible to live to live well, to have access to rights. Especially part of this, I didn't include that here, but there's a lot of political control. So even the access to medicine, the access to food, the access to just general public services or even education is very limited through the government, so it's really politicized. So I go into that there. Here I added a little chart which shows the chosen countries and the numbers. This is um, from 2019, so it's not the newest map, but I like how this map is divided. So here you can see that the biggest number is right in Colombia, which is one of Venezuela's neighbors, and actually most of the migrants go through Colombia to other countries. Most of them don't go to Brazil because of language barriers. That's the other, in Suriname too. Guyana, because that of language barriers. So they usually just go through Colombia and go into Ecuador, Peru, and down to Chile. Here, my next section, my paper is about the exodus. So the UNHCR declared that there are 4.5 million Venezuelan migrants. However, some other institutions or other even governments in the OEA also say there's more. So that's also unsure because governments are the ones taking numbers for that. So in any case, there's a lot. Most of them are in Colombia, Peru, Chile, and Ecuador, which has put a very big strain on those four countries. And that is one of the reasons why there has been xenophobia. And it's interesting because initially, and still seen, the Venezuelan migrant had a very warm welcome. In fact, I found that across all of the research that I did. Here I quoted a really in-depth report, and they said that openness and creativity in accommodating large-scale forced migration flows in a short period of time was something that occurred in most countries. It was actually rare to not see this occurring, and I thought that was interesting due to the difference of what we have seen with Western countries. However, this has begun to change, and part of that is because of that criminalization by the media and also increased entry requirements that have shifted the legality and have caused marginalization and also more persecution for the Venezuelan migrant. And then at the end of my paper, I asked the question of refugee, asylum seeker, economic migrant. What does it mean? How the Venezuelan migrant has become criminalized through the economic migrant label. And I make a comparison with how this is starting to parallel the global north's perception of the asylum seeker, which is dangerous because it's a criminalization of the migrant. And at the end, I try to demonstrate that the Venezuelan migrant should not be labeled as an economic migrant because of the criminalization that it entails. And that's it. I would appreciate your input. Thank you.